was like a dance to 8 beats. Because if you can't see and you're going from one side of the command center to the other, and then you got to press buttons and you got to turn and talk to one person and the other, one of the Rangers, that's kind of impossible unless you had training in dance, because it's like having blindfolds. And then my costume itself was like rubber latex, and then you see the bridges, so that's more with foam. Took an hour to put on with all the little pieces, and then they forgot that my body had to breathe. So on the making of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, a movie, Entertainment Tonight was there and a whole lot of media, and I did a couple of going back and forth, and then I passed out on the panel, and they got me out of the costume. My body had swollen up, and they're like, "Oh, your body's not breathing." Thank gosh I didn't die. So then they got oxygen tanks and had fishing tubes in like my legs, my stomach, and I'd get off set and I'd be on a chair and they'd just take this part off because it wasn't flexible, I couldn't sit down, and I'd just be in my little robot suit with my legs up with air coming through me until the next shot. And the command center itself was built quite high. It was probably about 10 stairs up, so I'd have to be carried by 2 firefighters up onto the set. Yeah, it was good. I didn't mind. So, and filming went for about, well, with rehearsals, the audition process was quite long. I think I did like 15 auditions, and it came down to the last 3 people. And so we were at the part where we did this was where, I think where Ivan Ooze comes out of the, what did he come out of? Somebody tell me. Yeah. It's like a construction kind of site. So the 3 of us were down there, and John Landau, who was the head of 20th Century Fox then, was going to make the decision. So we kind of stood next to each other. I'll just speak louder. And a guy that was part of the 3, he was about that tall. And then another lady, she was that tall. So with Amy Jo Johnson, Alpha had to be smaller than her with filming. And this guy was too short. So that's kind of after all the rehearsal auditions of me pretending to be a robot and making the ay kind of voice. That's how I got the part. And then the filming process took 6 months. There was a lot of like stunt people that were there, and then they were fired, and people being replaced all the time. And then Gabrielle Fitzpatrick got the part of Dulcia, and then she was unwell, and then they got the other lady. Does anyone know what the other lady's name was here? That's it. And then she, I don't know if she got fired or she disappeared. So then they brought Gabrielle back because she got better. And what else? I'd say you want to know my favorite scene in the film? That would be the one where Ivan Ooze comes in, Paul Freeman, and I go, "Ay-ya!" And then they put me in the middle of the set, so I can't see right, and they're gonna blow up the set around me, and the pylons are literally gonna land like next to me, and they're like, "But don't worry, we're here if it lands on you." And I'm like, "I won't be here if it lands on me." And I just had to go round and round in circles. So I'm glad that I couldn't see for that scene.
Barbara, aren't you glad you're a voice actress? I just want to say, you step in and you...
Hell yeah!
Also, somebody draw David's face on that balloon, please. We'll let it float around. That's very cool. Awesome. Romy, how about you? It's different on the TV show than the movie, I suppose, at least a little bit.
The suit was way different. It was actually kind of a low-budget suit because I was in the original first season. They kind of hodgepodged the first thing. The top was fiberglass and it was fairly heavy. Helmet didn't have a lot of visibility. I had a little bit like through where the red lights were, and I could kind of cheat my eyes so I could sort of see where I was going. But the rest of it, they went to sporting goods stores and bought hockey pads So hockey pads on my legs, hockey gloves, elbows, whatever. Just pretty much whatever they could find. The suit became a little bit better as the season went on. They kind of redid a few things. It wasn't quite as uncomfortable as Peta because I was wearing blue or black spandex. So my body actually could breathe and I didn't pass out, which was nice. So I didn't know you went through that.
Yeah.
That's awful. I'm so glad I had the low-tech version. Shoes were huge, they were foam rubber, and kind of hard to walk in. You sort of had to like waddle and shuffle and whatever. And the top of the suit became very heavy after a while, so I developed some back trouble. I had to go to physical therapy for a bit. They had to make a rule that I could only be in it for like half hour at a time, then they'd have to like undo me and everything. But the thing's not comfortable. I mean, you're wearing fiberglass, a little, not much. So I could kind of see like a little bit. I had sort of a black cloth over my face. I could see a little bit out of that, and then a little bit out of the light panel. And then I would work the lights. There was a little button in my glove, so that was connected to the lights, and I would just hit that like when I was doing the voice. But yeah, not a comfortable thing, but not as bad as you. Girl.
Sounds pretty crazy. That's pretty awesome. Well, how about you guys? Do you guys have any questions for our panel here?
Yeah, let's get some questions going on over here.
Yeah, Jimmer's going to form a little line over on that side of the theater, so if you guys want to go over there and ask anything, feel free to do that.
Come on up, form line right here.
Now, in the meantime, while we're getting those questions ready, Barbara, they had in season 2, Rita became an American character and was around more often, I suppose. You did the voice the entire time, which was fantastic.
When Carla got?
When Carla came into the show, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, when they ran out of footage on Machiko Soga, because I was doing that same footage with different words in her mouth to keep different storylines moving along. That's why the dubbing was so god-awful. You were little kids, you didn't care, you didn't know. But it was terrible. And then they had Lord Zed showed up. And people wrote in that they missed Rita because he was a little too sinister for the young kids, for a lot of the parents thought it was a little too dark. And I, at that time, thought, gee, maybe they need to maybe if they bring Rita back, maybe I'll play her. So I did a screen test as Rita before Carla got the job. But she would have been a Caucasian woman trying to look like an Asian woman. And I wore the costume once. And I thank the Lord, just that one time, that head here, that giant head. I mean, I would have had neck surgery by now if I had done that. But I'm smaller than Carla. I'm not, I'm strong enough as a little person, but that head was heavy, and so I did that one screen test. And there was a chance, but then they came up with the great idea of having someone that looked like Machiko, and who was actually Filipino also, even though she was from Japan. Didn't know that till Morphicon last year, that Carla said she was also Filipino. Oh, wow. Didn't know that. And that's why they looked so much alike, but one was younger, and they did that whole storyline where she had a youth potion, and so she got to look younger. So that was such a much more perfect storyline. But now it was us doing it, and it was English to English. It was much easier. Yeah, and I was back.
That's the important thing, you got to
And I got to be back on the show.
That's perfect. All right, guys. Who do we got, Gemma?
All right.
Hi guys.
Hi.
I'm Edward from New Hampshire. My question is for Remy. Did you know that they were gonna make a Power Rangers movie, or did you audition to try to play Alpha 5 in the movie?
Mm-hmm. Not better. So I was actually supposed to play Alpha in the movie. I had gone for costume fittings. The part was mine. That was that. They decided to cut me because it was going to be filmed in Australia. They didn't want to fly me to Australia. It would be cheaper to cast someone who lived in Australia. So I didn't get to go. But I'm not bitter. It's all good.
Very similar,
Little
very
salty.
similar Zordon situation for them.
Well, at least now you know you were not gonna pass out and stuff, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And then in Australia with filming laws, so if you're a US production, and leave pass,
There has to be so many Australian ratio to American actors. So I was union, but the others, the American, were non-union.
Oh, nice.
So I was lucky because that's how they negotiate for us. Otherwise, they would have. And I actually thought when I was in the union office, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job because they were negotiating so hard for us. But I'm glad because I still get my residuals.
Yeah, none of the other Rangers ever got residuals on anything because it was non-union. So actually, you got lucky with that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Moving on.
Hello, my name is McLean, and I'm from Biloxi, Mississippi. And I have a question for all of you. What was it like when each of you got your part, and what was it like to be in that character?
Well, I think I told everybody what, for me, it was, once I was that angry, I had to sustain it. And I wasn't that angry anymore.
Aw.
So I had to find a way to maneuver that voice and get it more humorous and lighten it up a little bit, but not too much. But they had to actually get a special mic for me. I was breaking microphones.
Oh.
So so I did really have to learn how to use my diaphragm and breathe a lot and use air and support and drink a lot of water and not do more than 2 hours, except for the Universal show, which was 8 hours, which I kind of lost my voice after that.
Being cast as Zordon was very cool. I was familiar with some of the Sentai shows growing up. I grew up watching Ultraman and Spectreman, and was a big fan of kaiju. So knowing that I was going to be on a show that had big rubber monsters fighting giant robots, I thought that's awesome. I was also very excited by the fact that Power Rangers was paired with the X-Men cartoon in that hour block on Fox Kids, and I was like, wow, I get to be on the same channel as the X-Men. That is awesome. But I mean, it was very bittersweet in the fact that they only filmed the character one time, but I really enjoyed the fact that I was part of a big, huge, giant superhero team and stuff. And at the time, not really thinking that it was going to go any further than that. Most of the Saturday morning shows that I grew up watching, they'd be on the air maybe 1 or 2 years, and then you'd sort of forget about them unless you happened to catch an episode that was in syndication and stuff. And they weren't really doing a lot of conventions at that time, so the only time you got to revisit those characters is when you catch the rare episode or whatever. So thinking that show would be on the air for maybe a couple of years and then people would forget about it, but not really being aware of the machine that was behind all of the merchandising and the toys and stuff, not realizing how much power that had and the longevity of that. And so around 2010, 2011, when I started to get a lot of notifications on Facebook about the show, I was like, oh wow, is that show really still on the air? And then going back and finding out how many different seasons, I was like, wow, this thing is huge. So it was great.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. What was it like to be in that character's?
Okay, so when the audition process was happening, the series wasn't out in Australia, so I had no idea what I was auditioning for at all. And then on set and rehearsals in my trailer, they had a TV, and the pilot, I think it was pilot, maybe it could have been season 1, had my character, and that's all I knew. But they were saying, no, you're not going to kind of base yourself on that one because the film was different to the TV series itself. So I enjoyed it. It was good.
So So for the audition for me, I got a phone call out of the blue. No clue how these people even got my number. I still don't even know to this day. Didn't have an agent at the time. Somebody just called me from casting and said, hey, would you like to come audition for this part? We're in Culver City. Like, okay. I'm like, I'm supposed to be at work in about an hour, but sure. So fortunately, I had a pretty lenient boss. So I called and said, hey, I've got an audition. I'll be late. Like, yeah, no problem. They understood. So I went, I met with the producers. It was Jonathan Zakor, and we just like chatted for a while. Super nice guy. He's like, all right, well, let me see some robotic movements. I just, did some robotics, some dance moves, whatever. It's like, all right, well, we really like you, and we have a couple other people to see, but we really like you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get a phone call the next day. I got the part. I'm like, okay, sweet. So had no idea what this show was about. Never heard anything about the Japanese show. Nothing. So I figured, all right. So I got a job for a little while. So I go do the show, whatever. Hadn't been on TV yet, and then it finally aired. And my boyfriend at the time, he lived at this big complex with a giant pool. He's like, Romy, you're not gonna believe this. Okay, so every kid at the pool area, they all have like fake swords, and they're all pretending they're Power Rangers, and this thing is so huge. I'm like, really? Okay, so like David, I had no idea how huge this thing was gonna be, how many years it would go on, and that all of you, when you were little kids, are now here, and you're all still fans, and how cool is that? I mean, it's got staying power, so thank you guys for being here and still being fans. It just makes our lives even better. It's cool. So yay,
So before I go on to the next question, our friend Ken over here did in fact.
Yes.
What did he?
This is for you.
Now that's perfect. You need to hold that in front of your face for the rest of the day.
Rangers, teleport to the command center immediately.
That's perfect.
Wonderful.
Correct.
I actually have 2 questions. One is for David. I recently turned 14.
Woo!
Do you think you need any teenagers with attitude?
I think the world needs more teenagers with attitude, because a lot of people assume that attitude means that people are difficult to get along with, that they're surly. But for me, the attitude really is those kind of people that take on the responsibility to do the things that other people won't. So the teenagers with attitude, I think, is a very apt description of the kind of people that we need, who are going to stand up, who are going to fight for you, and to make the world a better place. So yes, there are, yes.
Great answer.
We need more teenagers. And happy birthday.
Thank you. And also, how does it make all of you feel to know that this show has passed down through so many generations? Because I connected with my mom finding the show a few years ago on Netflix, and then I found a bunch of the other versions of Power Rangers.
Makes us feel old. That wasn't the answer that
It's a good answer, though.
It's a little true of it. It's kind of bizarre, and it's kind of phenomenally wonderful to, because when I started going, I went to a convention back in the 90s with Kerrigan May and Goldar. And he said, come on, let's go do this thing. And we sat there, and you weren't old enough yet. So it was still, you were like, this was kids that were with their parents. They had no idea who we were. It was a bust. We were like, what are we doing here? This is embarrassing. So for 10 years after that, I said, I'm not going anywhere near a convention. And then somebody convinced me to go to, forget which one it was. And it was totally different because you were in your 20s now. And we were acknowledged as, people talked to us and, knew our work, and it flipped into this, where it is now. Now it's in a different place where you bring your kids, and because of Netflix, they know us. It's just incredible. And thank you, because I can pay my mortgage.
Yeah, it's very humbling to know that something that you did has such a very positive effect on so many people, and it just keeps continuing to ripple outward, and it's very nice to know that something that you might have done for one day or the short amount of time that you were associated with it, helps people, and that's a really great thing.
So I'm going to continue for the question from the girl. I was amazed after so many years of the amount of fans and fandom. I did my first con in 2015 in London, and not only that, the stories that you guys tell us when you come to the table and how it might have saved your life, how it affected you. There was one gentleman who had like an Alpha 5 bedspread and an alarm clock, and he's like on my Facebook now. We're Facebook friends, and I inspire him a lot with his sugar art work that he does. But the fandom also, like so many fan pages now compared to a few years back on Facebook. And I admin one, Power Rangers Universe, if you haven't joined, do that. But I think it's all you're doing that's kept Power Rangers alive. And now with Hasbro purchasing and taking over, I can't imagine where that's going to go. And then it's going to be, if any of you have kids, it's going to be their kids that are going to be the fans, and I'm going to be like 100 sitting here. I remember when.
Oh my God, you and me both, lady. No, I've heard a lot of really cool stories from fans too, and they know every episode, and they know all the dialogue, and they just start reciting lines from the show, and I don't remember all that. I'm like, okay. It's just, yeah, it's mind-blowing how into it everybody is still. It's cool. It keeps us going, and it keeps us coming to these conventions and meeting more and more of you across the country. It's a cool thing, actually across the world, because I know there's conventions all over the place now. So it travels. It's very cool.
One of the most touching stories that I heard was that somebody said my autistic brother, who couldn't focus when he would watch the show, it calmed him down, and he stopped being as frenetic, and he would have some violent episodes. And watching Power Rangers would just calm him, which is so odd, with all that loud noise in the show. But it would do that, and I heard that more than once, that it would work with autism and help
Really?
people with autism. That's just wonderful.
Go ahead, yeah.
Wow.
So good morning. Victoria, I've come from Scotland. I just want to ask, all your characters to me are the original. You guys are the icons that we all grew up with. But how do you feel about how your characters are now in the new movie that came out?
I thought they did a really good job with the new movie. I thought that they captured the heart of what the whole Power Rangers is about bringing people together, working together as a team, standing up for other people. I thought they captured that message very well. I do think that they took a little bit long getting to the stuff that was really exciting about Power Rangers, but because they were rebooting it and it was a new origin, and you have to do that kind of thing. As far as my character, I was very thrilled to know that they found somebody of Bryan Cranston's caliber to play the part, and I thought they're treating it with some sort of seriousness and with weight and stuff like that, because it would be very easy to turn the character into a cartoon, if you will. And I also thought they did a very dynamic job of being able to have his face moving back and forth across the wall. So I thought that added to the character's ability to emote. The character that I portrayed on the TV show, because he was only filmed one time, there wasn't a lot of range for him. He was just stuck in that sort of time warp dimensional kind of thing. So And that worked great for the show, but for a movie, it needs to be a little bit more dynamic, and I think that they did that. Yeah.
I loved Elizabeth Banks. I think it's a tough thing to recreate a role that's kind of become iconic for so many people, and she had to make it her own, and she certainly did. Eating that gold was great. I liked that part. I wasn't crazy about Goldar. I didn't like. I thought it was too melty.
Yeah.
And Bryan Cranston was in Power Rangers in the beginning before he became famous. Most of you know that he was a monster. We all worked with him, and it was crazy. Whoa, talented man. So I liked the movie. I thought that I liked the fact that it took so long in the beginning because I think they had expected to do a lot more sequels, and they wanted to develop the characters so that you knew who they were. But I don't know. Is it going to be a sequel?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, yeah. And I thought Tommy and Kimberly, they shouldn't have had that scene. They had a scene with them in the and they should have kept that in there because all they got was a waving or going ooh, and I was not happy with that, and I wasn't happy with Make My Monster Grow. I thought you should have put more oomph into it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in that movie as a homeless woman screaming in an alleyway. Elizabeth Banks kill me and say that woman's giving me a headache.
Yeah.
That would have been probably the most fun scene in the movie.
I tried. I said, hey, I have this idea. And they said, well, think about it, Barbara.
I think I should have been the owner of the Krispy Kreme and just sort of sleeping up in it.
Like all of us just pop up out of nowhere. I said I want to walk past in the background with the Alpha 5 robot because it's changed, but the new character by Bill Hader, it's all CGI, and I'm glad that they did change the look because then I'm still like me because I couldn't come to convention with Bill Hader sitting next to me. Like, he's amazing. I love him on Saturday Night Live. He's a brilliant actor. And I love the new film. I love what they did with it. There's a lot of arcs in there. So Hasbro has confirmed that they're making the next film. And there could be many more after that. And just that in itself, it's going to grow again. And you don't know. They're starting a new TV series in New Zealand with Beast Morphers now. So who knows, next year. This could go on for 50 years, the TV series, you know.
Where's our cartoon version?
Shattered Grid needs to be an animated movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
For the Alpha character in the movie, just the look of it, they took all the cuteness out. Kind of like Alpha on crack. So, that was kind of bothersome. Yeah. I don't know. That was kind of disturbing to me, but I mean, otherwise it was quite us.
Hi, my question is for Barbara. I would have a question about the process, like the creative process. How much flexibility or input did the writers give you concerning some lines to recite, especially with trying to make it synchronized to the lip reading that they were giving you to do?
Well, on the fly, when we would have in the beginning, when we had new dialogue for different episodes with the same face going, ow, 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 ow. Scott and I would come up with, we would crack ourselves up and put, dirty words in there. Just for the other people's entertainment, that the other actors. But we would try our best to make it fit the flaps because that's my skill. So it was very frustrating to not be able to make it fit because there's just so much you can do with moving a storyline forward with just a certain facial mouth thing and not fit plosives and labial words properly. So we just had to give up on it and go for moving the story forward and try our best to make it sensible and do it with that in mind and try to make it fit the mouth. But that became kind of the cult funny thing about it. was bad dubbing. That was kind of became part of it after a while.
It was the joke almost.
Yeah.
It was what you guys would look
The
at.
only crushing thing was, I think, TV Guide at the time, TV Guide, said that woman is a terrible dubber. They put it on me. So that was a little bit of an ego deflation, but oh well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my question was for everyone. If there was anything that may have disappeared from the set, what did you keep and why did you keep it?
Yes.
I actually left all my hair on the set, so I didn't get to take anything.
I left my dignity and I didn't keep anything, so.
I lost my diamond in recording. I had to buy another diamond. Saban got my diamond out of
Oh.
And then we had to pay for our jackets if we wanted a jacket. So no, we didn't get anything.
Yeah, I didn't keep anything, but Global Effects guy, Todd, who would be my costume person, brought the first, I guess, release of Alpha Toy, which I still have in the plastic. So 23 years later, it's still perfect condition. Yeah, I'll keep it forever.
I am Matt from DC. My questions to Barbara. I've seen that you have like a really like expensive like filmography for like voice acting and like animated like anime and stuff since like the early '90s. And I was wondering.
Don't do the
And I was wondering if your role as like Rita like made you like begin to get like if the phone started going off the hook and you started getting offers from like everyone, or if it just
Unfortunately,
hard work
no.
and perseverance afterwards.
There was a lot of like not respect for the show from like a lot of the animation business and the Saturday morning cartoon business, because it was non-union, and so it had a little bit of a lower respect level with people in the business. So because I was associated with it, it did not do that. Later on, now, more so, but the roles I've gotten after Power Rangers was based on fitting the character that they were looking for and me being able to be versatile enough to pull it off. But I cannot say that Rita helped me until the conventions. Thank you guys. And that's about it with Rita, you know, and the kids that are now working in the business, if they need an evil voice, they think of me and say, you know, yeah, Barbara Goodson, she'd be good for that.
I really love your work in
later on.
Disgaea.
What?
I really love your work in Disgaea.
Yes!
Yeah, that's Rita higher pitch, basically.
My question is for Barbara. How do you feel like voicing anime characters?
Oh, I love that part. I love it. This guy's so good. He should be working all the time. Because, you know, we're voice actors. We have like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I mean, it's like a meal, you know? If you have like pie all the time, you want a steak. Sure. Well, unless you're a vegan. But I love being able to do this sweet, cutesy little, you know, cute little characters. That was terrible. But, you know, just the innocent, pure characters, and then being able to blow it out the, you know, mouth. It's my joy. And for an OCD person, it's perfect, because when you're watching those little mouths and you go, yeah, it worked. It's fun. Thank you.
Hello, people. So this is a question for everyone, and since I did notice David's little shirt over there. Well, and so it was a few months ago, there was an article that someone said, I don't remember who the person who said this, but they once said that Power Rangers is a much better franchise than Star Wars. So I wonder, what is your opinion about that?
I don't know if they were referring to the actual content of the Power Rangers versus the content of Star Wars, or if they were making a comment on the fandom of Power Rangers versus the fandom of Star Wars, because I know that there is a lot of negativity online concerning the Star Wars fandom. They can be very negative about new things being introduced to it. A lot of people don't like The Last Jedi or what was being done with The Force Awakens. So I know that there was a lot of backlash in the Star Wars community. Whereas in the Power Rangers community, yeah, there may be some, a few arguments here and there, but for the most part, all of the fans really support everything that's going on in the franchise, are excited to see where it's going, where it's growing to. So I'm not sure if the article was referring to that or not. My booking agent represents clients from the big three, what he calls the big three franchises, that being Star Trek, Star Wars, and Power Rangers. And the world over, everybody knows what those three things are. So it's kind of really interesting to be included in that big three. But as far as I know, I don't know what the difference between all three of them is, or what somebody finds interesting about Star Trek or Star Wars or Power Rangers, and then takes that to a different level. But I don't know if that's what the article was referring to or not.
Well, it has something to do with that maybe like with Power Rangers, they always every team always finds a gray area to work together and all that. I think that's what they kind of refer to.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin. From Michigan. This is for everybody. If you could go back in time and give yourself some advice, what kind of advice would it be?
Stick around another 6 months. That would have been my advice.
Steal some stuff.
Yeah, I would have been, I'm gonna take the costume, I'm gonna take this. What else? I didn't go to the premiere. I went to a meditation camp instead. So maybe go to the premiere.
I also did the nationwide live tour, and the advice to myself would have been to stay on it, go to Europe and Australia, because unfortunately I went home after the US tour and I could have stayed on, but I chose not to. So.
Anyone else have any questions? We have about...
Let's see, we've got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, 10 minutes, yeah.
So if you do have any questions, while you're thinking about
I have a
those,
favor to ask everybody. So as you all know, Sandy Selner wasn't able to come to the convention, and I know she's really bummed about it, but if we could leave her a voice message, it might brighten her day. And I have her phone number.
Let's do it.
Would you guys say hello to Sandy if I called her?
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. All right. She didn't answer my text, so I don't know if she's going to actually pick up, but we can certainly leave a message, right? All right, let me pull it up again.